Hello again, everyone. Mark Hackle, Macomb County Executive. John Paul Rayap, our Deputy Executive here, fresh off of a Memorial Day weekend. And again, just our thoughts to those that who lost their lives, servicemen and women, protecting our freedoms here on our home soil. Just want to make sure those that are continuing to serve our country, thought goes out to you as well, and we can't thank you enough for what you do. We did see some interesting developments over this past weekend. We had some good weather. That was a good sign. But also, I think we're weathering the storm when it comes to this COVID. We're starting to see that people's efforts and what they're doing, whether it's the people in their personal lives or even our business folks, adding to the solution here. Our numbers are incredibly low, and we're thankful for that. Unfortunately, there are still some deaths, and there are still some people contracting the virus, but we've come a long way here in Macomb County.
Mark, as we always say when we report the numbers, they're going to continue to rise, obviously, with the spread of the virus. But the steps that we have taken, not only here in Macomb County, the coordination we have seen is that it seems to be working here in Macomb County with regards to our response. About 6,600 cases throughout the county, about 780 deaths. What we're seeing too is the recoveries growing by leaps and bounds every single day. 4,500 individuals have recovered from COVID just in Macomb County alone. And I think that shows the community resiliency and the way we've been able to support the communities, also with the healthcare system, and then that public health response, I think has been something that's been inspiring across the county.
The whole idea, the flattening the curve, I think we have gone well beyond that. And so when you look at the numbers, the data, as JP just got through mentioning, it's always going to continue to rise. The numbers are never going to decline. It'll stay that way forever as far as the actual numbers, even when we do come up with some kind of a, cure for this. But the reality is, the question is, where are we at right now? And if you take a snapshot in time, and I think that was the objective, to try to figure out as we start to open the economy, we start to allow people to move back and around, and the governor kind of, if you will, kind of pulls back on some of those other executive orders. It's based upon the community spread. It's based upon the numbers, is from what we're hearing. But those numbers are incredibly low right now. Again, over the past 10 days, I think we're averaging maybe 3-4 deaths a day, which is still sad. We don't want to see anybody die as a result of this. But at a time when we were averaging over 30 a day, I think that was the objective. When we started talking about flattening the curve, the impact it's having on our healthcare facilities, they're all telling us all of these numbers are trending in the right direction, a positive direction. And yet, we're still waiting to see when we're going to be able to at least open up other sectors of the economy here.
Mark, it's interesting because when we look at those numbers here to the county, you talk about the notion of, when we were looking at, a couple dozen deaths a day, now to the fact that, whether it's 3 on average, what we're seeing over the past 5 days and everything. Same thing when we look at the cases. It used to be the fact where we wake up and if we saw a couple hundred cases, it was just the business of the day, unfortunately. Now we're looking at the case where, just last reported and certified date was on the 24th of May. We only had 3 confirmed cases in the county. These are some positive trends which not only illustrate the strategic response that we've taken here in the county, how we've leveraged our Emergency Operations Center, how we've used the County Executive's Office to coordinate that response with our healthcare providers, with the public health folks, and then engage the businesses to figure out how we develop those community-driven solutions. I think that's where it comes in the personal responsibility and how we're continue to phase in those elements of our economy too.
And I think credit to a lot of the businesses, credit to other government entities. I mean, early on, we took the initiative to say, we realize there is this impact it's having, listening to CDC, listening to what's happening at the state level, we decided to take it upon ourselves and figure out, okay, how do we isolate people? How do we get people to, not congregate? 80% of our workforce immediately was moved out in other areas. So we've done those right things. And with that being said, I don't think anybody believes that we're waiting for that day where we're not going to have any more cases or any more deaths. I mean, it's just not practical. I don't think anybody expects that, whether it's the President of the United States, his staff, the Governor of the state of Michigan, her staff, and or even here from the county level. We understand this is still going to be with us, but the question is, how do we start opening back up? And boy, I got to tell you, over the weekend, that's all I kept getting was a lot of conversation from folks, and some of the stuff I couldn't answer. Friday dropped upon us without any real conversation at all with the governor, is this extended stay safer order. So no longer are we in a stay safe, it's a stay safer order. Yet, I think we are the safest we could possibly be at this point in time, knowing all the, if you will, input people are having into this, meaning they're part of the solution. So, why is it we're opening the northern part of the state? Yet mid part of the state is still concerned. Every 10 days they're doubling the numbers, when here down in southeast Michigan there has been an incredible decline in those numbers, and I don't have an answer. So when these hair salons, when the gyms, when the restaurant owners are calling me, and they have been calling all weekend long, confused about the orders, not understanding how it relates to that color-coded chart that nobody's talking about anymore. I don't have those answers, and I sympathize with them because of this. I do believe our business owners, whether it's the healthcare facilities, whether it's the restaurants, and even the folks that are out there trying to cut hair for a living, I do believe they want to be part of the solution. They're willing to come back, and they're willing to take the precautions necessary to protect themselves, their employees, as well as the public, and yet I don't have an answer as to why we can't allow them to. Knowing the numbers are incredibly low, and in fact, when I do look at that color-coded chart, we are in phase 5, where this should be taking place. But now we're waiting another 2 weeks before there's even a conversation about that. But I'll tell you what, I would be prepared to open if I was any of those facilities, at least on June 13th when this opens, because I think it's gonna be, the governor's going to be hard-pressed to say no again or try to extend it and not allow them back into business and justify that based upon the numbers. The numbers justify opening those sectors right now, and I agree with them. Unfortunately, I'm getting folks calling me saying, why don't you just open the county? Those aren't my orders. I can't just tell you to open up and now you're in violation of a governor's order where they may take matters into their own hands, take away your licensing, not allow you to do the things that you do that are state regulated. I can't do that. But again, I'm pressing forward, trying to get the attention of the governor to realize our numbers are significantly low. Our business people will be part of the solution. Allow them the opportunity to open back up.
Mark, I think the key word here is preparedness. What we need to do to not only sift through and filter through the different elements of the executive orders, that whether it's impacting our operations or impacting some of the elements with regards to businesses phasing in, we're in continual conversation, as you said. If you personally field those calls as we continue to take in all those response from our COVID partners and obviously from business owners that are looking for clarification, our planning and economic development department continue working not only with the local chambers, ensuring that we got that open for business campaign going, engaging those that are operational. These are all the things that we have the safeguards and systems in place. Now it's, can we deploy them to the full force of the systems and institutions that are behind us? That's where we're ready to go next. That's where we're willing to work with anyone we need to, whether it's the federal and state level and even at the local level. But I think it's most importantly is doing so in a localized way that illustrates we understand where our community's at, we understand the sentiment throughout the community, and we understand how we want to support them moving forward.
Yeah, most of the businesses already have their plans in place. They're ready to go. And we have a resource guide, an icon at macombgov.org that even our businesses can go to if they need some support or guidance, and we'll continue to help them through that. I think most of them are ready to go. They just need to know when they can go. So, with that being said, I think we have the other concern that we're fighting with, and that's the unemployment. Some of these businesses may not want to open because they're not comfortable, and that's okay. People may not want to go to a restaurant or a health club facility, even if these restrictions are lifted. That's okay. If you still don't feel comfortable, or you got a health issue, you're elderly, still shelter in place, still stay home. You don't have to do those things. But disallowing businesses for really not understanding the reason why has become one heck of a challenge on behalf of those businesses and for myself to try to answer those questions, because it's definitely not in the numbers anymore. I mean, the numbers are significantly low, so it can't be based on the numbers. So the question becomes, what is it based on? We're averaging less than 3 deaths a day. Our numbers are low as far as the actual people coming in contact, and yet we're still 2 weeks out from an answer as to when they can open up. I'm perplexed. I don't have an answer for the business sector. And again, I can continue to appeal on your behalf to allow you to be part of the solution as you open, so that we can do it in a reasonable fashion to at least allow their livelihood to continue. Because some of these businesses are suffering right now.
Mark, as you've said time and time again, the public health crisis, the economic crisis. I think the other thing that's been really interesting here in Macomb County is how we've continued to work with the locals to help devise strategies that will get them phased back in. Whether it's these CARES Act resources, where we're putting some money aside to inject into locals as we started those conversations, looking at getting more information out to them this week. Again, preparedness. How can we start to move things forward in a legitimate and respectable reason? Always mindful of public health, always keep an eye on the data, always working with our experts here locally, but ensure that we're giving those right resources to the right individuals to make the right decisions of what we're faced with here.
And as JP mentioned, the CARES Act funding, we are putting the plans together to try to figure out how we get money to those businesses that have been impacted, as well as other areas and communities within Macomb County. We will be making a special announcement when we have finalized all the plans and the details of that, so people can go ahead and apply for those grants. And again, they're grants, they're not loans. We got to pay them back. And again, that was through, fortunately, ultimately the funding that we got from the federal government. So, with that being said, we will have the information. Again, macombgov.org is a great resource for anyone who needs more information about what's happening in county government, what's open, what's not open, how we're migrating back to that option to provide better services, or more services, I should say, internally as a county. But again, we will also have that information listed on our website once we start moving into that direction to free up some of that funding for them, because a lot of them right now are looking for that funding right now because of the impact it's having on them. It's amazing.
Mark, our business development team has been engaging businesses not only with that first rush of funding we got through the state, but as we've continued to refine those operations when we have the business resource link. Again, we've been engaging thousands of businesses throughout this process. As we gauge in those programs, as we're working not only to have the systems in place, this is going to be something where we get those direct resources to the people that need it most.
Yeah. And so later today, probably as you're watching this video, the governor is going to be doing another press conference. I, like you, I'm going to have to be tuned in to figure out what that is. I find that unfortunate. I think we should be part of the solution. If we're all in this together, I think community leaders such as myself should be engaged in some of the conversation, at least providing a perspective, as opposed to having to watch a press conference and get the information. And I say that because it's really challenging for us after there is a press conference. The inundation we get from people wanting to know what this means and what is our assessment of it or interpretation of the new rules or new orders. So I can only hope that we're starting to kind of lift some of those sanctions, give people back some of the freedoms to move about, that want to move about, and to get some of these businesses that have been incredibly impacted back on their feet. So with that being said, I want to thank you again for tuning in to an update on what we got going on with the COVID here in Macomb County, and to remind you to keep you and your families safe.